Welcome back to today's Daily English Look. So if you've been scrolling through, social media lately, or even just talking to friends about their next vacation, you might have noticed this huge shift happening in the world of travel. The whole perfectly curated group trip seems to be giving way to something a bit more, well, independent. Modern travel is really being defined by flexibility now, by personal discovery, and I think most importantly, that freedom of just choosing what you want for dinner without a huge debate. We're diving into a topic that has just completely reshaped tourism. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
What we're seeing in the data, it confirms this massive cultural swing. It seems like those travel buddies are officially out, and going it completely solo is in.
That's absolutely right. And what we've gathered in our research, it's not just, a few anecdotes from some brave backpackers. This is a huge quantifiable trend. It's driven by access, by technology, and some really deep psychological needs. So our mission today is to explore this whole phenomenon. We're going to look at the hard statistics, the really surprising historical roots, which are much older than you'd probably think, and then get into the complex, the deeply personal reasons why so many people are choosing to go it alone. And crucially, we need to understand why this feels so different from just, say, taking a vacation by yourself 10 or 20 years ago. For a lot of people now, it's not just travel. It's a deliberate kind of self-optimization.
I think to really understand this boom, we have to look back. We have to see where that independent spirit first took hold. Because the idea of setting off alone, it isn't new. It just looks drastically different with Wi-Fi and jet engines.
For sure.
We have to start with a man named Thomas Coryat. He was an Englishman, sometimes called the world's first backpacker. And you just have to appreciate the sheer commitment this guy had.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, no GPS, no credit cards, definitely no cheap flights. But back in 1608, he went on what was basically a friendless, entirely on foot grand tour of Europe. Entirely on foot. He traveled something like 3,000 miles over 5 months. It was just a Herculean feat of slow, deliberate travel.
I can't even imagine. Just trying to explain to your family you're leaving for 5 months and you'll send updates by carrier pigeon? Maybe. And the things he saw.
His findings are so fascinating because they just show how isolated European culture was back then. He wasn't just, looking at monuments. He was documenting these radical cultural differences that are totally normal to us now. We see in his journals he was writing about foreign delicacies like frogs used for food in France. But I think the most enduring part of his legacy is about the newfangled technologies he found.
And this is the detail that always sticks with me. That technology was the fork.
That's right, the fork. He helped popularize using a fork in England after seeing it in Italy. He was so ahead of his time, his notes actually included instructions on how to use this new piece of cutlery without, poking yourself in the eye. He was documenting what he saw as radical, life-altering innovation, which in 1608 included decent table manners.
Forks. It's such a great reminder of how revolutionary small changes can be. But that really sets up the modern paradox so well. Coryat moved agonizingly slow. He was completely reliant on his own 2 feet.
And today's solo nomads, they're armed with cheap flights and mobile phones. They move so much faster and farther than he ever could. They're compressing centuries of geographical movement into, a few weeks? But, and this is the key, the core motivation is still there. That journey of self-reliance, of forcing yourself into discomfort to grow, modern travelers are still following his lead.
So let's pivot to today, because the shift from a historical footnote to a massive cultural movement is just staggering.
Yeah.
This is where the numbers stop being interesting and start being, defining.
Absolutely. If we just look at digital curiosity, Google searches for solo travel have more than doubled in the past decade.
Doubled.
That shows intense interest, but the real story is in the actual bookings.
Right, because, an increase in Google searches could just be fleeting, right? People are just curious. But the figures on who is actually buying tickets, that shows real behavioral change.
Precisely. The Association of British Travel Agents, they're the folks who track this stuff, they saw a crucial data jump. In Britain, the share of travelers going on holiday entirely by themselves has nearly tripled in just over a decade.
Tripled, yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about a rise from just 6% in 2011 to a really significant 17% in 2024.
Wow. So that's almost 1 in 5 holidaymakers now just deciding to ditch the group and head out alone. But I have to ask, when we see a number like 17%, are these people truly traveling alone, or is it just, say, someone going on a trip without their immediate family?
That's an excellent question. And the data really focuses on those booking trips entirely for themselves. So they're often using single supplements or tours designed for individuals. It represents a real shift away from relying on partners or family. The movement isn't just about convenience, it's about this intentional separation.
That level of change for just over a decade. That signals a huge cultural realignment. It suggests something much deeper is going on than just being able to book a flight on your phone. And here's where it gets really interesting. What are the psychological drivers, the cultural drivers behind this massive shift? Why this sudden need for independence?
Well, the primary driver, and we touched on this a bit, is what you could call radical self-discovery, or like we said, self-optimization. Just like the grand tours were a kind of rite of passage for young noblemen centuries ago, solo travel today is less about finding faraway places and much more about finding yourself, or maybe curating yourself.
And the hospitality industry, of course, always ready to brand a new trend, has given this a name.
They have. Hilton coined the term mimooning.
Mimooning.
It's a brilliant piece of marketing, really, because it directly contrasts with the honeymoon. It suggests that the most important relationship you need to celebrate and solidify is the one with yourself.
Huh?
And you do that through intentional solo discovery.
That's incredibly powerful. You're kind of forced to step away from all the daily roles you play, right? All the expectations that come with them.
Exactly. And you see that sentiment echoed everywhere by travel bloggers and operators. They suggest that when you're on a white sand beach in Bali or, trekking through a rainforest in Belize, the absence of familiar faces lets you become a truer version of yourself. You have to make decisions that satisfy only you.
I think we've all been on that group trip where, half the day is wasted just trying to decide where to eat lunch, or you have to go to a boring museum when you desperately wanted to find a local market. That compromise fatigue is a real thing.
It is, and that is precisely the appeal here. Solo travel is the ultimate chance for an internal edit. When you remove all the demands, the expectations, the compromises of traveling with others, you're forced to make every single decision based on your own internal compass. If you want to spend the entire day reading in a quiet coffee shop, you do it. If you want to wake up at 5 a.m. and climb a volcano, you do it.
Total freedom.
That absolute sovereignty over your own time is incredibly appealing, especially in a world where everyone's calendar is already owned by their job or their family. The research we looked at confirms that this self-imposed solitude, this forced independence, it can significantly boost creativity and well-being by just allowing your brain to reset.
It connects so well to that idea from the writer Robert Louis Stevenson. He summed it up perfectly. People travel not to go anywhere, but to go. That feeling of pure, unadulterated movement without an end goal dictated by anyone else, that must be a huge motivator.
It is.
But here's the most surprising plot twist in the source material. The thing that's totally counterintuitive and honestly fascinating. A lot of people aren't traveling alone to stay alone.
That's the true paradox of modern solo travel. It seems completely backwards, right? But many people travel solo specifically to meet new friends, maybe even potential partners. They want to do that rather than just relying on the people they already know back home.
So the goal isn't really solitude. It's finding a new, untainted social environment where everyone is starting from scratch. You're proactively manufacturing connection.
That's the key distinction. When you travel with people you already know, you're locked into that fixed social dynamic. But when you arrive solo at a hostel or a tour group or a class, everyone else there is also intentionally alone and looking to connect. The barriers are just inherently lower.
And it seems like the isolation of the last few years has only amplified this.
Oh, absolutely. The data points to a major accelerant, the pandemic. Lee Thompson of Flashpack, which is a tour operator specializing in this stuff, he notes that the shared isolation made people far more open to roaming with strangers. They're actively seeking out these communal experiences with people who share their travel goals but aren't tied to their existing personal history.
And the Flashpack model is kind of the perfect evidence for this, isn't it?
It really is. They create these structured group trips, but specifically only for people traveling solo. Their slogan just captures the goal perfectly. Arrive solo, leave as friends.
And their success proves there's a huge appetite for this. It's not just a cute slogan.
Not at all. Their numbers back it up dramatically. They now take twice as many bookings as they did before COVID-19.
Twice as many.
That incredible increase strongly suggests that the desire for new, structured, meaningful connection is a huge driver. Maybe even more than the desire for internal self-discovery, at least for their business model.
So what does this all mean? The drive for connection is now fueling the drive for solitude. It's like you have to intentionally step away from your established social circle in order to truly expand it. It's a high-stakes way to meet people.
Yeah.
Now that we've kind of established the why, the self-discovery, and that paradoxical drive for a new connection, let's zero in on the who. Which demographics are really driving this cultural movement?
The latest figures really point to Millennials and Gen Z. They are, quite simply, the most keen on traveling, and they're the most willing to spend money on it. McKinsey data confirms that these generations spend a larger share of their income on trips than their older peers do. For them, experiences, especially ones that make good social content, clearly outweigh material goods.
And their life stage gives them a flexibility that previous generations might not have had at the same age. It's not just desire, it's feasibility.
Precisely. We're seeing a really significant trend of this generation deferring traditional milestones like marriage and having children. This isn't just a cultural shift, it's an economic one too. It grants them the financial capital and, the logistical flexibility to just head off on these jaunts whenever they please. They don't have to coordinate schedules with a spouse or arrange childcare. They're essentially trading long-term commitments for short-term, high-value experiences.
And this whole movement is just amplified by digital culture. You can't talk about this trend without talking about social media.
Absolutely not. We can't ignore the role of platforms like TikTok. You have these influencers constantly preaching the virtues of going it alone with these strong, direct mantras, things like, stop waiting for someone to join you. This just normalizes the whole act of going alone. If you see thousands of successful, beautiful solo trips online, the perceived risk just drops.
Right. It turns what might have been seen as a kind of sad, lonely activity into a badge of courage, a badge of independence.
And if we really want to talk about the absolute primary driver of this movement, we have to look specifically at gender, because there is one demographic embracing the solo mantra far more than any other.
And the statistic here, when you first see it, it's just stunning.
It's truly powerful. The estimate suggests that a shocking 84% of solo travelers are women.
84%.
This isn't a marginal difference. This is a huge defining statistic for the modern travel market.
So why? Why such an overwhelming majority of women? What explains that huge disparity?
Well, several factors contribute. First, financial independence is critical. More women are entering the professional world, achieving financial autonomy earlier in their lives. That means they don't have to wait for a partner to fund or, approve a trip.
Okay.
And secondly, there's the community and safety factor. Women are often incredibly savvy planners, and the explosion of online communities for female solo travel has provided two crucial things: shared advice and highly curated safety tips. That access to peer source knowledge dramatically reduces the perceived risk that used to be a major barrier.
That makes perfect sense. So the internet, it's not just for showing off the trip. It's acting as an essential safety net and logistical planner.
It puts the whole arc into this fantastic cultural context. Much like Thomas Coryat 400 years ago, who had the means and the motivation to go document the world. Women today have the means, the time, and the digital tools to follow their feet, to independently chart their own course and redefine what modern self-discovery looks like.
So to recap this deep dive, we've covered this remarkable historical arc. From a lone Englishman walking across Europe, documenting foreign things like forks and frogs, to a massive, digitally influenced cultural trend today. This boon is fueled by powerful psychological needs, a desire for self-discovery, the thrill of freedom, and, paradoxically, a deep need for new human connection.
And this leads us to the ultimate question that this whole trend raises. The very existence of modern solo travel depends on some really specific things: cheap flights, flexible life paths, and most crucially, the mobile phone. That's the device that manages your bookings, your navigation, translation, all those essential online safety tips.
Right, it enables everything?
So, if the underlying drive for me-mooning is to find a truer version of yourself through solitude and separation, we have to ask ourselves, does the very technology that enables the trip, the phone that links us to everyone, provides instant safety and delivers validation, does it fundamentally limit the possibility of true, unmediated isolation? Are you ever truly alone when the entire world is constantly available in your pocket, ready to pull you back? That's something for you to mull over the next time you decide to venture out on your own.
All right, that's all for today's episode. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, save, and follow. Your support is the motivation that drives my progress.